We're 100 days from the election now, less than. I have a hard time believing the Wayfair thing based on the Russia. Mostly anything dealing with Russia, I have a hard time to believe.
You fill 1,700 pages, and maybe you'll want to write more of them. I mean, everything we're talking about, you could have a page and a half.
And maybe they'd read more of them too.
Yeah.
Because the long form discussion is taking over these news segments, are taking over these spoon-fed, prepackaged media sound bites that we get every day.
Media. Yep.
Do you think anyone on the left should have been blamed for this?
The insurrection?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the entire media.
And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Hey everyone, Dave here, December 1773. With me as always is Ryan. This is episode 87 of the weekly show, all of the week's hottest topics with a twist. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. More importantly, follow us on the Rumble, that is the free speech version of YouTube. Like the video if you're watching on Rumble like you should. Make sure you rumble the video. And share it along. Share it along with your friends because we all have to make our own algorithms since Big Tech doesn't allow our algorithms to push the videos to anybody. So, Ryan, real quick, I don't know if we're going to do this anytime soon, but let's call it maybe by season 3. We might have some new visuals and maybe a producer.
Hey!
Maybe. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Huh. I'm excited. I always have enjoyed the progression of this podcast. Everything's just been awesome about it. Just slowly growing, chipping away. It's just beautiful.
For everyone, and especially for some of the people who've been watching since the early days, you've definitely seen how it's changed, and it's going to continue to change. We'll continue to add and produce more for everyone watching. Ryan, I sent this to you, and I know that everyone is sick of the COVID.
Definitely.
A new COVID variant is spreading across the U.S.
Just the U.S.?
Oh, well, yeah, just here. It's the BA2 variant. And apparently, it's increasing the number of COVID-19 cases. And the only reason I mentioned that is because I saw an article the other day, and it says this: the CDC says it accidentally inflated children's COVID death numbers in a coding logic error. Accidentally, Ryan.
There's no accidents, I thought.
As Joe Biden would say, there is no accident. This is no accident.
This is no accident. Dude, it's crazy that we're naming COVID after gallons of milk now.
Yeah, so anyway, COVID. Yeah, I don't believe the CDC accidentally inflated children's COVID death numbers. I also don't believe they accidentally inflated the regular death and case numbers. I believe it's all been inflated, and we here watching know why it's been inflated. Everyone watching the show, I hope everyone watching the show thinks along those lines. But if you don't, I don't know, comment below and let us know why. But we've seen that the government is not trustworthy, and they'll use anything to their advantage.
Just really brings in question, because remember when they were trying to develop this vaccine expeditiously, like as basically throw everything into the wind, see what, actually makes it through it. And then what's the thing they kept telling us? We have to mask our kids because we don't have a vaccine. Mm-hmm. Look at the numbers. Children are dying, right? Tug on our heartstrings. Think of the children. This has been a comic tactic forever. Like literally longer than America's been around. They used to sacrifice kids, except in the back in the day, But it's the same kind of idea that you're like sacrificing like your parental rights over your children because the state said so. When it's even showing anecdotally that they lied about it, and it's just an accident. Could you imagine going to your boss and saying you just accidentally messed up the accounting?
Yeah, I accidentally bumped it like 250%. But don't worry about that accidental. It was just coding logic error.
I just gave everybody an extra 0 in their paycheck.
No, it's fine. Don't worry about that, though.
It's just, these people know what they're doing. I mean, and this is also going to go, I'm sure, we're going to have computers to correct this. Like, it's just like, this is how, like, they use this murky system, right? Because it's not stamped out. Like, that's going to be an automated thing. They're just going to be able to randomly generate numbers in algorithms and then blame the algorithm that they generated and say, it was a coding issue. It's this or that. It wasn't actually somebody measuring it on a machine or trying to do math or trusting science.
Trust the science. How can we trust the science when we know the data's wrong? That's the baseline for all of the science.
David, it wasn't wrong. It was a coding issue.
Oh, right. Accident. It was accidental. This is no accident.
Words are just made up. They don't mean anything.
The far right and the right. I remember when the Canadian truckers were still being talked about so many weeks ago. 5 weeks ago. It wasn't that long. We were told that freedom is a far right term. We've been seeing this coming down the pipeline for a while. You've been talking about this forever. And it's funny now that I saw this. This was in an MSNBC article. It was an opinion article, but it was still written in their article. Fitness,
opinion. like news is objective.
Well, yeah, they're all opinion articles. Let's be clear. Fitness is now a quote far right activity.
Good.
Fitness.
Good. I'm going to the gym. I'm glad I'm meeting like-minded conservatives.
Yeah, I'll take it. It's fine. I mean, listen, nobody's perfect. I'm not saying we're bodybuilders by any means, but
Not
just
yet.
be generally. Being remotely healthy is considered far right. I mean, look at some of the stuff that's coming down the pipeline. And I was scrolling through. We have Amazon Prime, and I was scrolling through, and Lizzo has a show now. I'm not gonna watch it. There's no way.
How does she fit on the thumbnail?
It's a. Well, funny enough, when I saw it, there was they have how it's all laid out in the small little square thumbnails, and then at the top, the headline show was this big widescreen thing, Big Girls or whatever it's called.
They couldn't even spell correctly either for this program. Girl.
Yeah, trust the science though, right? Trust the science. If the doctor tells you you're overweight and you need to lose weight, that's far right.
Dude, could you imagine when they shut doctors down that promote health? Like True Health.
They literally did. During I'm sure they've done it before too, but during the whole COVID thing, YouTube kicked a bunch of doctors off for just questioning basic things about the vaccine. Things that I'm sure you would question about any vaccine if you're doing actual science. It
was just misinformation though, Dave, if you're mistaken.
And this just leads over, I guess, to, we have, in case people aren't paying attention, I'm sure everyone who watches the show pays at least somewhat attention to what's going on. And of course, Biden's Supreme Court nominee is being questioned now. They're going through everything. And she was asked to name or describe or define a woman, and she could not.
And why could she not?
Well, she just couldn't, Ryan. When gender and sex is all so subjective and not based in reality, how could you even do such a thing?
This is where we used to hear about, a woman is strong and independent and trustworthy and feminine and loyal and not harsh to make judgment and patient and nurturing. Now we're just told, I'm not a scientist.
I'm not a biologist. I think
this is kind of funny because they're politicians, right? And they're lawyers, right? They know what they're doing with these words. This is how, if she thinks like this, right? The whole idea of these hearings. Now, obviously, this could be a gotcha moment, a sound clip, something to run for midterms or elections or all these wonderful things that this will be copy and pasted into over the next preceding months of timelining. But it does highlight characteristics about these people. That's why they publicize them, and that's why they fluff them up, and that's why this one caught attention. Because in theory, when they say things like this, you would assume that they're going to carry some kind of this worldly outlook into their decision making for the position that they are obtaining. which is the highest court in the land, as the Supreme Court, and she was basically only nominated, let's be real, because she's a black woman. Now,
what does that mean, though?
I'm not a scientist. I guess I can't say. Even though that science and opinion can no longer be separated, which by default would make me a scientist because I have opinions. So if I think, therefore I am. So I am a scientist and a politician because I just can make laws up because I speak them into existence. Like I'm a king and people need to not whatever. All jokes aside, the point is this woman, you would assume she's going to carry, not bias, because they're supposed to be unbiased, even though we know they are biased. And she's going to carry that same kind of mindset into her decision making. And it's dangerous. And once again, she was only selected for the potential for this position because she's a black female. Not because of her character, not because of her story, and Trump did the last one because he could, and two, she was a female as well. Let's be real. And you know what?
We're not speculating here. I mean, Biden flat out came out and said he was going to pick a black female.
He said it during his campaign, we knew this. If you pay remote attention, like you said yourself, David, we knew that they plant these seeds months, years in advance to see how people feel about them. Like, that's the only reason they even write it down, is so that they can test you with other algorithms to gauge how much you enjoy it. And they do things to make you hate them in certain areas, to smokescreen you and fly things under the radar the other. They'll take the loss here to win the war. That's basically what they're kind of doing here with the smokescreen, with just the political questioning, right? Because once again, they're lawyers in a court of law. They're supposed to, so help me God and all that. They're supposed to be truthful and all these other things, objective, and supposed to be these high moral people with this high level of education. We're supposed to trust them because they're esteemed. This woman probably got, I don't know her obviously, and she's obviously done greater things than I will ever do for the government and such, but I'm sure she got a long way in her life for being a black female. And I'm sure she didn't come from the greatest upbringing, from the greatest neighborhood, and all these great adversity. This is kind of contradictory if you look at if they're saying that being healthy is right. At some point, are they going to say ambition is a right-leaning characteristic, right?
I mean, I would say that. There's, at least in my experience, there's no question.
Definitely highly industrious people, as Jordan Peterson would put it in personality scheduling. Highly industrious people are mostly conservative, Republican leaning.
In the, I don't know, the whole I'm not a biologist thing, it's funny, but it's definitely not the most concerning thing that was asked about, because Ted Cruz and a couple other people as well absolutely drilled her on her very lax sentencing of child predators. I mean, child rapists, however you want to put it. I mean, definitely disturbing stuff. And she was asked about it, and she said, well, as a mother and a judge, which how does she know she's a mother? She's not a biologist, who had to deal with these cases. I was thinking nothing could be further from the truth. She was, my heart's out. So Ted Cruz, as always, just laser focused, crushed her. And this is some of what he was saying. In the United States versus Chazen, maybe, the prosecutor asked for 78 to 97 months. You imposed 28 months. 28 months is a 64% reduction. In the United States versus Cooper, the prosecutor asked for 72 months. You imposed 60 months, Cruz listed. That was a 17% reduction. In the United States versus Downs, the prosecutor asked for 70 months. You imposed 60. That was a 14% reduction. United States versus Hawkins, the prosecutor asked for 24 months. You imposed 3 months. That was an 80% reduction. In the United States versus Savage, the prosecutor asked for 49 months. You imposed 37. That was a 24% reduction. In the United States versus Stewart, the prosecutor asked for 97 months. You imposed 57. That was a 40% reduction. The list goes on. I mean,
and these are all for sexual acts with children.
Yes, those were specifically for, child predatory, child rapist, child pornography charges. Things that we flat out are disgusting, right? I mean, nobody here would. I know people in the group, myself included, who's I know at least I'm against the. We've talked about the death penalty before. Man, I got to tell you, when I see child rapists and child pornographers and stuff, I get really close to saying, you know what, maybe we'll let some of the other things slide, but I don't know. These people got to fry, right? Hang them publicly.
Well, morals are only a social construct, David, even though you have this biological response to them, which is crazy to think that they would be, the other way around.
Well, I'm sure morals are a far-right activity.
Soon to be.
The point is, if we look at the big picture here, this wasn't one case and there was a couple reasons for it. It was time and time and time again. Not only was she not max sentencing them, she wasn't even giving what the prosecutor asked for by many, many dozens of percent, like not even close. I mean, and her defense was, well, they're pretty mainstream sentencing. Okay, well, that's a whole nother issue, first of all. I mean, we need to definitely be a lot tougher on certain types of crime, at least, there's nothing more innocent than a child.
Remember when Donald Trump said that people that do any kind of act against children will not be forgiven and hunted down, basically?
Yeah, I mean, that's the tale of two cities right there. Ketanji Brown Jackson and Donald Trump could not be more different.
It's amazing how things flip. Speaking of that, I seen actually a meme this weekend. Now I know it's just like perfect photo op, but it showed like the difference between the military's enthusiasm between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. I'm sure you've seen those photographs as well.
Mm-hmm. Was it the black guy in the background, like?
Yeah, that one, and then the other one,
like,
and then everybody else is like ready to run over each other to shake Trump's hand and get a picture with him and stuff like. Which you kind of remember when he was like throwing, Trump was doing the toilet paper thing, and now Joe Biden can barely freaking get to Poland.
Yeah, the toilet paper, was it paper towels?
It was great.
It was
literally, it was great. What else do you do though? Like, what a dude! It's probably all handled or not handled yet. He's just like, fuck it. I really miss it, but
I'm shooting threes.
To go full circle here, man. Like, just the thought of these people knowing exactly what they're doing. Joe Biden has sniffed young ladies on camera, and then I'm supposed to think the woman in the highest court in the land is just letting these people.
And that's a whole nother side of it is.
They had a Jeffrey Epstein Island, the only one, of course, of its nature.
Of course. Yeah, that's the whole other aspect of it is how convenient that Biden, who loves a sniff.
Could you imagine? Remember when that girl came out and said that Trump during the campaign touched her underage and all that? You imagine if he elected somebody that allowed child people to get off lesser?
Oh, yeah, that would not be good. And you gotta.
I hate that we have to keep looking just at Trump, but it's like the thing that guy did was a lightning rod to show you how extreme they will go to ruin you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but again, that's an even bigger picture as we talk about Biden and his. And not only that, we talked about the Hunter Biden laptops last week. One of the things we didn't really talk about, we mostly focused on some of the other scandals of the laptops, but one of the alleged scandals was much child pedophilia, pornography, including some of which may be relatives. Obviously, we can't confirm that, but
I'm sure we'll see the laptop, right?
I mean, again, how weird is it? How coincidental is it, right? This is no accident that Biden, whose son is just you talk about lightning rods, he's a lightning rod for just disaster, but child pornography and pedophilia, and then he's appointing this justice who's known to be light on that kind of thing. There are no coincidences, but there are no conspiracies.
Dude, it's crazy. It's like a James Bond movie. These villains writing themselves, man. I like it.
The other thing we were talking about Trump and the military. It's fascinating that the military would love him so much since he was colluding with Russia the whole time. But that leads us to the other thing that we wanted to talk to, and then there's going to be something else after this. Yeah, stay tuned. Trump is suing Hillary Clinton and other members of the DNC over the, quote, unthinkable Russia plot in the 2016 election. Former President Donald Trump on Thursday filed a $24 million federal lawsuit alleging that Hillary Clinton and the Democratic National Committee launched a wide-ranging, unthinkable plot in 2016 to smear him and his campaign as colluding with Russian officials.
Well, Trump's been caught colluding with Russia, correct?
No.
surely we must have proof that Donald Trump colluded with Russia, right?
No.
Like, not even a little bit?
No, not at all.
Like, not even of his son or his associates?
No.
I'm sure the media, like, has admitted that, right? Like, they've come out and said.
No.
But they're saying that it's this lawsuit's for no reason because he's just an idiot, right? This guy that's made billions but rips everybody off.
Yeah, when you
the guy that's smart enough to
media, define media like new media,
like the media that is probably attached in the lawsuit somewhere.
the old one that works with Democrats
And the White House.
The White House.
Yeah.
The 45th president alleges that the scheme concocted by Clinton, the Democratic presidential nominee, and others falsified evidence, deceived law enforcement, and exploited, quote, access to highly sensitive data sources, and was, quote, so outrageous, subversive, and incendiary that even the events of the Watergate pale in comparison. Along with Clinton and the DNC, the lawsuit names defendants former DNC chairwoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz. She was rough. Clinton campaign chief John Podesta, speaking of pedophiles, the law firm Perkins Coie, and the research firm Fusion GPS, former FBI officials Andrew McCabe, Peter
Podesta just likes blood parties or whatever the hell they were called.
Yeah, he's into some weird stuff.
Spirit cooking, right? Is that the word? Spirit cooking.
A couple names that sound familiar. Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. Remember, there were text messages and communications between them. And Christopher Steele, of course.
I'm sure it's all fine.
British intelligence agent who authored the dossier. Notice it said authored.
Foreign intelligence.
Ex-British intelligence agents who authored the dossier. Authored as in it was created. It's not real. Trump has long accused Democrats and the Clinton campaign of conspiring to link him to alleged Russian interference in the 2016 election, the subject of unsuccessful impeachment proceedings against Trump when he was in office. And that's the other thing, keep in mind, they impeached him over it. They impeached him over a thing that was looked into by government officials and said was false. They impeached him. He was impeached for things that aren't true. Knowingly impeached by things that were knowingly untrue.
Well, I'm sure we can just go back and check the archive of, like, I don't know, his Twitter probably and just see what was going on at that time, right? Compare the timeline.
No, he's off Twitter.
What do you mean off Twitter? Like, I'm sure that the archives are there. I'm sure if I go to my Facebook memories around this time when I was sharing tweets from Trump, they're there, right? Like, I assure you they're not just scrubbed from the internet.
That's unlikely. Brian, Isn't
it crazy they can't get rid of the kitty smut stuff, but they can literally wipe the most powerful man off the entire internet that you can't even share a photograph from 2 years ago from his Facebook account? Because it's happened to me.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. We've frequently documented that the government is untrustworthy on this show. It's tough to imagine a scenario that proves how untrustworthy they are more than this.
The censoring of Trump, you mean, in particular?
Not only that, but the fact that
Oh, you mean the dossier that was created by an ex-former intelligence? I'm sure he wasn't a spy.
So to go back, for people who don't remember, they create this dossier, right? They say that Trump, because of this, right? They use this.
Allegedly.
They use this thing they created to prove that Trump had ties with Russia, and that helped rig the election, and among other things, actually.
Safest and securest election ever.
No, that was 2020. 16 was rigged.
Well, Obama also spoke out about the time that there's no need to worry about our elections because they're, partnering with Homeland Security, and they wouldn't let anything happen to us.
So they created this, pushed a false narrative that it was colluding with Russia to steal the election, even though we were told the elections were safe. And then, after he got elected, they used it to impeach him the entire time knowing it was false. That's a lot of showmanship.
And commitment to a lie.
You really got to commit to the lie there.
Imagine that's falling on your sword. And why would they, though? Why would they gambit all that, David? What are they willing to risk? I'm sure they were worried about getting caught, or the truth willeth outeth.
Well, that's the thing, Ryan. Turns out they weren't worried about it because the media and big tech, right, the two places where everyone gets information, fell right in line with the narrative.
That's weird. I wonder why they fell right into the narrative.
How can you possibly trust anything the government says? Anybody from the government, quite frankly.
Well, they gave people money to sit home, so I'm sure that's
true. That's true. Ryan, I don't even know what to say about this. I hope he wins. I have my doubts that he will.
Why? Everything after this just sounds like it's, inciting insurrections. Like, honestly, anything
Which we would never do. No, don't wink to that. Ryan, we wouldn't do it. We would never choose violence. Don't wink. Don't. That's a blink. Okay. He's not winking.
I get SEAL Team 6 live on program. From a bunker that they found me. It's the last fallout I could afford. It's on Motel 6. I'm in the bathroom. Yeah, dude, I don't know. I mean, it's pretty crazy to think the guy's just scrubbed from the internet. Like, do you remember when they did Alex Jones and they were like, oh, yeah, this guy just said some crazy stuff?
Well, I remember specifically they went through a handful of them before they got Trump. Right? There was Alex Jones and there was Milo Yiannopoulos, and there was a couple other lesser known people that were scrubbed.
It's crazy, too, because Trump said when they attack me, they're really attacking you. And then when they censor Trump, we have literally seen, especially all these doctors under COVID and people like Joe Rogan who have apologized for things in the past that they said. They have all these people under their thumb, and they have them scared. Guarantee you all these content creators are scared to say shit if they banned the most powerful man in the world.
Well, Elon Musk has come out and said he's over it. I'm starting my own thing.
Why wouldn't you?
And Elon is one of the very few people who actually has the resources to do it. Remember, he's creating literally his own internet, right? So if he can web base and host everything himself, there's nobody there to take it away, right? I mean,
unless they charge him with monopolizing, because I'm sure the government would just rally all their support like they have for the Ukraine overnight and just write up documents that prove, I'm sure, that aren't doctored or altered or from, quote, people. I can't wait to see the source list from this Trump thing, because there was a lot of people familiar with a lot of different matters during that entire part of that presidency.
Well,
inside sources.
Unfortunately, everybody was an unnamed or a unknown source. So how do you even pull these people into court?
They're fake names. Well, how do I know that CNN just didn't use a fake name when they made the shit up in a news article? And to think that, and by default, if any news article that was printed or talked about at that time about the fake dossier is also fake by default, and the information spread. So, like, that's like a 10 times forest fire kind of thing. Yeah. Because not only did they push the false narrative, but like everything else that they print defending it or promoting it is also false. And the damage has way been done because the articles that they're going to print, obviously on the other end of this, just make Trump seem like an idiot. And that the things I were reading, that there was misspelling of names and all these other things. Dude, literally how often have we said people familiar with the matter on our program alone?
A lot. And here's the other thing I think we need to keep in mind with all of this. Remember the fact that the dossier, right, the fake dossier failed, right? They failed. Donald Trump still got elected. Now, the beauty in their built-in plan is either it got Hillary elected and it's a win, right? Or it gets Trump elected and it still can be used, right, to delegitimize the election. But then think about this, and I'm not saying 2020 wasn't the most safe and secure election that we've ever had. We can wait to that. But isn't it weird that we have a known failed plot to ruin or to steal an election, right? That's what the whole point of this was. And then 4 years later, somehow magically everybody just changes the rules on how you vote because of a virus? And all of these ballots just mysteriously arrive after Trump is absolutely crushing his opponent? I'm not saying they're not real. I'm just saying it's a little strange that it happened just 4 years after this failed plot.
Well, what it is, David, is just a bunch of once-in-a-lifetime things happening all at the same time. That's all that is. Just like, oh, this thing is once in a lifetime, like the virus, and then it's just once in a lifetime that we allow mass voting, and it's just once in a lifetime that we see a guy literally just fucking crush. Trump was crushing. Do you remember on election night, 2016? I can't believe it's 6 years ago.
On 16 or 20?
2016. If we go back to that, do you remember? Yeah, how it was super close when we went to bed. Like we were up till 2 a.m, and then they knew Trump won.
Mm-hmm. And then they were still trying to figure out how it didn't happen.
Yeah, like even the news the next day didn't want to print that Trump won.
Yeah, they're like, well, it's too close to call. It's like,
you're like, the Electoral College is until the 23rd when they secure the election.
Yeah, right.
Certify the election. And then they talked about at that time how there could be unfaithful electorates and all these other magical, mysterious things. And then
they're really stacking their odds.
Really reap what you sow, and then when it's on the other foot and there's some political banter, and then there's some political movements like march down Pennsylvania Avenue with me, and then you're banned from Twitter after.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's cemented in your psyche for a reason, but we have to see the reason for what, not they tell us what it really is. That's when like real... There's no more free elections. We know that here at December 1773. There's no more free elections. Because if they're not going to sway the numbers, they're going to sway the people that go and vote through the media. We've proved it. Happens all the time. We now know this. This is now in the ether of Americans' daily lives that we know we just get lied to by the media and you can't trust anything. How many people do you see just on their Facebook feed be like, oh, I saw this video on Facebook. I don't know if it's real or not.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
so like you're okay. Yeah, and you're okay with regurgitating information that you're not even sure and secure with, and then you're supposed to be like going in the world with confidence that you're making great decisions with your money, your relationships, your spirit, your education. Like you're supposed to go out there, but you can't really be sure because you don't know what to trust. And then a lot of people, most people, aren't really courageous to openly think outside of the box because they don't want to get ridiculed by people who think inside the box. So then you're never going to grow as a person because you're not trying to expand your mind or expand the way you think or look at different things. And then where do we get that? We get cancel culture. That's literally the epitome of it. Cancel culture is people's non-ability to not see from only their own point of view. That's basically the dumbest thing is like everybody should feel the way I feel. And if you don't, you should not be able to have the same power that I do. I'm right, you're wrong. That's cancel culture. It's like, yeah, it's just narcissism, really.
Ryan, I'm not that I don't like conspiracies, because I do love a good conspiracy. I'm not super familiar with some of them, and as a former very avid listener of Alex Jones, Ryan, I imagine you are familiar with certain conspiracies more than I am. Can you just walk us, and I'm not saying this for any particular reason, can you just walk us through the general idea of the New World Order? Just wondering, for no reason.
All right, well, see, here's the thing, David. The New World Order doesn't exist. It's not real. It was never real. It's never been even close to being real. It's just some little pocket corner of the internet that just talked about...
Is it QAnon?
Just this little dark corner of the internet just would always link all these weird things together and just make crossword puzzles out of straight lines, you know, and that's all it was. And it was just basically stuff like, I don't know, very few people own everything and they distribute all the information to make you feel a certain way about narratives that they can control so that they can have a population that just willingly, blindly follows them as they slowly take all of our money, resources, wealth, education, and opportunity, and they thieve from us the very liberties that were bestowed to us by our Creator, and that is God and Western governments. And they slowly do it through...
Wait, I want to just stop you real quick. You just buzzed over this. You said this isn't real, but you said something about the... pushing narratives, and what was that?
they've used their ability to control information to push narratives that have large groups of people all believe the same exact thing at the same exact time so that they all can make the same exact unilateral decision because they basically want to take your mind and free will from you. And the only way they can do that is to break your spirit through endless assaults of propaganda, through spirituality and the television and screens and negativity and murder and theft and all these other things, even though we live the greatest ever because capitalism and Western governments are awesome.
Wait, but like, you know, in our intro, the part where there's like 150 different news anchors and they're all saying the same words, like word for word, the same words.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they say it's dangerous to our democracy.
And like how like the mainstream media, like all the media outlets usually have the same narratives, which are the same as the democratically controlled White House.
Well, you know, words are just made up and subjective, David, along with culture, gender, narrative, and all these other things. And that's why we are here to lead the way, because we are promiscuous and we have the flame of knowledge, and we are here because we're better than you, and we are going to guide you to enlightenment, just like Prometheus did.
Well, like the White House when they were using the top content creators on TikTok to talk about Russia-Ukraine war.
I'm sure they wouldn't do that, David. That would, like, I don't know, kind of like circumvents the ability of the people themselves to have free and access to free and reliable information. Or, you know, I'm sure those content creators were talking about how they were speaking with White House officials all the time, right? Like,
well, but all those things sound like the thing you were saying that you said's not real.
Oh, I'm not saying it's not real. That's what the news told me to say. You know, the news said that the New World Order isn't real, that global government is not real, even though I've heard world leaders like Xi Jinping say globalism's inevitable. And, yeah, I don't know what you want from me, David. There is no secret Bilderberg group that meets in private for almost 100 years, and then we just talk about it the last 20. So that's never happened.
Yeah, I was going to say, no, you told me about that, and then everyone said it wasn't real, and then the news came out and said it was real. But I heard it from you before I heard it from the news.
Yeah, or like Bohemian Grove, where, you know, that a certain guy snuck in with a camera and caught some, like, I don't know, like A-list celebrities or like very strong politicians, like doing highly creepy cult things. But, you know, I'm sure it doesn't parallel with those little Epstein Islands they have to blackmail the politicians and
there was
judges.
only one of those.
You know, because, you know, remember when they crashed 2 planes into the building? Those terrorists from not Saudi Arabia, they crashed them into the planes into the building, and then they just gutted our freedoms, and they said, well, you got nothing to hide. So I'm sure all those people at Jeffrey Epstein's magical Jurassic Park theme world had nothing to hide when they were just down there with underage females. And, you know, it was just not, you know, I'm sure it was the average guy was there too. You know, he's got a wife and kids. You know, he doesn't, you know, make millions of dollars a year or is a billionaire or know how we make his money or nothing. I'm sure they didn't use these places as like little recruitment centers and maybe to get blackmail on some of these international princes and oligarchs to maybe leverage them in the court of law or maybe threaten them or certain ways to make them vote on certain policies that may or may not affect the globe or their local communities, or rob pension funds or social security funds, or raise property taxes for universal basic income, which is just basically a gateway to poverty, because this is the way they figure it, is that they're going to see, you know, they want a certain amount of people, you know, and it's written on a Georgia guidestone, which is just in the middle of this little rural community that cost millions of dollars, and nobody knows who actually built the guidestones, but they say that they want a global population and one religion. You know, it's probably going to be alien in origin, because why would we believe in Jesus Christ, you know, a man saying that he's the son of God? Well, we believe some little magical green creature crawls out of these things that define physics. But the very story of a man defining physics are illogical and irrational when we weren't alive to see it. But just because our eyes can be deceived, we believe these little green Martians exist. So I don't know, David. For all I know, these people have controlled so much information for so long that everything we know is just organized and plotted and planned together and traced perfectly in a little box for us to understand, even though I'm told that the world is so complex that nobody can control it. Even though all it took to fuck up the whole world was a little invisible virus that basically has flu-like symptoms and inflated egos and numbers, and one ship in Suez Canal to just go and you fuck up every supply chain on Earth. So,
well, that canal is notably narrow, and it's definitely happened before. No, hasn't happened before. What about I mean, all this sounds bad, but like, nobody from the United States government has ever said anything about the New World Order, right?
George H.W. Bush. I'm sorry, George Bush has said something like the George.
Damn Republicans.
It's a new idea, a new world order.
Well, at least the damn Republicans.
You know, and some people would say when Eisenhower was stepping down his farewell address, he talked about the threat of the growing military-industrial complex, which also was a conspiracy, that these people like Halliburton and Blackwater start wars and make billions of dollars on it. That was a conspiracy, too.
But we know those. We know they're real, though.
But what do I know? I mean, what do I know? It's not like, I don't think there's anybody currently talking about the New World Order because, quite frankly, I haven't heard it. I haven't heard the New World Order in 3 years because all I've heard is about a little invisible thing that I don't even think's real.
Well, it's not invisible, Ryan. There's pictures of it.
I'm sure there is. For the record, I did finally find one, but you do have to, look.
Oh, see, Ryan, this is all you... Listen, Ryan, obviously you're not reading the headlines. This is the USA Today, a very reliable source, fact check. Biden's New World Order, not reference tied to Ukraine, not conspiracy theories. He was just talking about Ukraine. And this is the media, so you can trust these people.
So he wasn't talking about a New World Order and how America has to lead the free nations of the world to a new world.
No, Ryan, this place is called Independent, so they sound trustworthy.
I'm sure they've never censored information there. I'm sure they've always printed everything that those journalists down there have always wanted to write and release to the public for information. Sure, they've never had to retract an article or alter one for...
It says it was in off-the-cuff remarks, Ryan, so you can let it slide.
It was off the cuff, but he says we have to lead all the free nations of the world.
Yeah, off the cuff. President Biden said there's going to be a new world order out there, and we've got to lead it. Who's we?
How the fuck? The guy speaks so little that everything he says isn't off the cuff. It's a presidential. It's not like he's out there taking questions like Trump was. Trump said a lot of shit off the cuff. That's literally what his Twitter was.
Well, they shut that down.
I'm just saying. So, when Trump could actually maybe, and not everybody, anytime he said something off the cuff, they'd run with it as fact, right? And then now that Joe Biden says so little when everything he should say is actually fact, this is the least spoken president ever.
Well, Ryan, he's just so busy. He's got a lot going on. He defeated the COVID,
But not the vitamin D variant, the fucking milk variant, 2%. COVID 2%.
BA 2%.
BA 2%.
I'm not saying the New World Order is real or fake.
But we're walking towards it.
I'm just saying the things that you just described sounds very real, like all the things I see now. The things that we describe on the show every week. So if it's just maybe it's not a conspiracy, maybe it is a coincidence, Ryan.
There are no coincidences.
Maybe it's a coincidence that Biden's in the media is working with the White House and Biden's working with big tech and content creators at TikTok. This is all a conspiracy.
Yeah, and then when he says something that says that New World Order means death of individualism. It means the death of sovereign nations. It means the death of the freedoms that we were given by our founders and our creators and the people that laid the foundations of every country, not just to mention ours, the great country of America. But every country is going to lose its culture, right? Because it's just a construct. We'll just have a global we're just going to have a global style. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about broad brushing humanity because they're saying we're just programmable. Which is not true. They've programmed you to be programmable. We're only the way we are because they programmed us. If we weren't programmed, we'd all be unique. We'd all be individualistic. We all would share. Everybody has different values now. You know what I mean? And
not everybody. The media has pretty much the same values.
Yeah, I've been following politics long enough to actually see New World Order literally go from being the craziest conspiracy not possible, that there's not groups of people meeting, to the deep state and elite and control and like in my lifetime. I've seen that. Trump said that Americanism was going to be our credo, not globalism. And then right before the election he lost, we heard that globalism is inevitable.
Yeah, what are the odds that that's what happened? Right? The guy who is so vehemently anti-globalism, and you have the leader of China saying globalism's inevitable, and we have this magical election that just, the second most elected person in history somehow loses to Joe Biden, who is
from something that may have come from a lab or not,
right, in China.
In China, the very country that said this is inevitable.
And he lost to Biden, who's wildly unpopular. He was wildly unpopular every time he ran, except magically in 2020, he was the most popular ever. If you people believe this, you're out of your mind. What are you doing? Pay attention.
Yeah, this whole talk of the New World Order, we did a video on our channel. It is actually the weekly show, episode 65, called Globalism is Inevitable. And I was very theatrical there. And that was 5 months ago. I actually listened to it today. And the shit I said on there is not only more true, but it's like, not only is it more true, but it just seems crazier because it was only 5 months ago. And some of this, like in that episode, we talked about how Russia accidentally moved the ISS space station. And
yes.
Now, what are we seeing with Russia and Ukraine? Right now, I know there's a thing, but these are the slow incremental change. Like, Biden was president 5 months ago, but we weren't at war with Ukraine. Doesn't make sense.
Is inevitable, and we actually switched to at some point, maybe even in that episode, of saying globalism is here.
Yeah, and I mean, to go even further in that, I talk about they're gonna Winston because I referenced 1984 as their way of controlling information. Winston. What has happened? I came on this program and said they're gonna have a feminine version of 1984 told from a female's perspective, because that's similar.
You said that on episode 65.
65, I talked about how they're going to make sure you buy books hard copy because they're going to change them and delete them. They're going to Winston. 1984, literally within a month.
Well, that sounds like New World Order, Ryan.
Why wouldn't you just change the book that talked about how they could change information at a brass level? Winston is just Mark Zuckerberg if you juxtapose that. Winston's job was to delete and sort through and sift information. Sounds like Jack Dorsey. Sounds like that global prick they're appointed on that board with global experience and it just was, I don't know, royalty or something. That's weird.
That is weird. Super weird.
Go even further. Biden was talking about real food shortages. In that very episode, I talk about how grain's super expensive because we're feeding it to China. We're sending our stuff to China, right? And then I get a news article sent to my friend that China's hoarding half of the world's grain right now. But there's going to be real food shortages here in America. In that episode, I talk about how you don't want global democracy because everything's going to go to China because there's more people. I'm not that smart.
I recall this now. I'm not saying it. I remember you saying that.
I'm not that smart. There's nothing that I have that nobody else has access to. I have all the same information you guys do. I don't know what to make of it. I don't know what we do about it. But Alex Jones always said the solution in 1984 is 1776. So yeah, Joe Biden talked about the New World Order openly when I have seen it come literally more beyond full circle. Not only have I seen it go full circle, they're not trying to crash course and go back in time. And they're going to delete all of the stuff that referenced the true New World Order. They're going to delete it because that's what Winston would do, right? That's why they have to Winston. The people before us already told us their plan. They now have to go back. They now have the power, the ability, and the social credit system with cancel culture. All they got to say is this guy was racist. He loved, like, whatever. Thomas Jefferson and all. What do they do with their founders? Slave-owning men. Even though George Washington freed his slaves on his deathbed, which was the only way it was possible, was to not leave them in your will. That was literally the only way you could lawfully free slaves. And those slaves lived on his property till they died. His family died. I don't want to hear nothing. These people have been nothing but crafted narratives, and to see him crash course in real time is it's hilarious.
I feel like we predict the future on the show, Ryan.
Yeah, I also predicted. You sent me the thing this week about the Secret Service had a tweet released that talked about people who wouldn't, in case of a draft, they talked about how people would be doing other jobs, and they were showing like the guy driving a bus and stuff. I predicted them teaching your kids and driving your bus and all this thing, and we actually seen that. And now we're seeing the fucking Selective Service, the federal agent. They tested the waters. It's called Overton Window. It's called think tanks. Once again, all this stuff is out there. And they've released it, they've tested it, and now we're seeing the tweet. Selective Service. What we would do in case of a draft is basically make you be a bus driver and then tie this all into globalism being inevitable and New World Order. You're going to just be working for free, and we're all going to be eating bugs because there's not going to be, quote, enough real food, like real meat. Steak. In that episode, I talked about steak being a luxury item. And now, what have we seen? The price of gas, the price of beef. A pound of hamburger is like $8.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
Yeah.
It's going to be cheaper to eat McDonald's, which is just soy-based garbage-ass human feces ground up and shit out into burger patties. I'm going to be so weak I can't even fight back when NATO does come here and take over America.
I spent like $5 on a gallon of milk yesterday.
This is what they want, and the reason they're doing this, I mean, they're talking about. I said this to Dave. They want to give stimulus checks to offset inflation. That makes the inflation. We talked about the inflation it was going to make, and then it makes it. Then your solution is to cut more money that we don't have. But then I'm also seeing at the same time saying how they've, quote, run out of funds to give everybody a fourth dose of the vaccine, but you have the funds to print out money to combat inflation when it makes inflation. I'm glad you only asked 17 of your Nobel Peace Prize winning economists, you pricks, when there's 99 other ones to ask, you lying pricks.
Well, to their point, Ryan, who could have seen that coming?
Everybody, David. This is a design takeover for the New World Order. They have to separate you from your money. And the fastest way they do that is government overreach, taxes, and destroying your businesses. Increasing the cost of goods right now is just the quickest way. Remember how we're seeing the fastest wealth exchange in the history of humanity? It's all over the place. All these very news articles that are controlled by those people are talking about it. They're telling you what they're doing, because if you didn't, everybody would be like, what the fuck's going on? You'd be all going down to D.C., but now that we got access to everything, oh, they're just doing this. Oh, the banks are, excuse me, they're trying to take me out. The banks are just doing this and all this other stuff. It's not by coincidence. Some of the largest, like realtor companies were bought up by, like, hedge funds. Hedge funds are buying all the real estate. Hedge funds. Wonder why housing's so expensive. World Economic Forum, the year is 2032. You own nothing. You're the happiest you've ever been, and you have no freedom. New World Order. That's the New World Order.
But Ryan, why would you even have to own a house if you can just go on Meta with VR and you pick any house you want, Ryan?
They're not. Nobody.
You'll be the happiest you've ever been, but you won't own it. It's a beautiful thing, Ryan. These things aren't coincidences. There's no
virtual reality might be so symbolic. When the Greeks died, you can see it in the movie Troy. They didn't do it for everybody, but there was always a thing about getting your drachmine, which was their coin. That was their measurement of currency, was a drachmine, right? I don't know what it's worth, but eventually turned into the Greek kept the drachmine until the euro in 2008 when they joined or whatever. When they bankrupted Cyprus, fucking assholes, because they did. Those people bankrupted Greece, the same people that I was told don't do this shit. That's when they could just operate and do it. Special interest groups were just sucking countries dry, joining the Federal Reserve, banking cartel systems, all this crazy shit, right? That's when they joined. But there's always this symbolism that you would put it on your eyes, right? You would get two, and that would be your way to pay Karen, which was the ferryman that would take you to Hades, the underworld, and you would give your coins to the gatekeeper. And if you didn't have them, you were stuck in hell, which was basically like purgatory. Like that in-between world, like a ghost, right?
Did she ask to speak to the manager?
Well, how symbolic is it that Meta just covers your eyes and takes you to another reality? Just like the drachmine you would place on your eyes to pay for the ferryman. It's almost as if that screen is your digital drachmine, and you just slip it over.
Take me away, Karen.
Take me away. It's a guy, but his name is Karen.
Oh, well.
Because, a woman would not willingly do that job. And that guy, I think, lost his family and everything. the actual myth behind Karen. But the
Um,
reason this tale exists, and I know it's a stretch, but it's not by coincidence that they take your site, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. You wear a mask, you wear a VR, and then you got your headphones in because you got to listen to something on YouTube or TikTok. I mean, they've taken our senses.
that's how I prefer to take in government narratives is TikTok with VR. It's the best experience.
You also notice how there is no like the see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. There's nothing about touch there, right? Because I think it's the easiest thing to fool is your touch, right? Like a snake's a snake, but they're beautiful to look at. You pick them up, that might bite you, might not. You know, like everything's deceiving, even when you touch it. But if they take like those other senses, see no evil, like it's, and I know I hate that you got to get like mythical with it, but that's what this New World Order people believe. Like all this occult symbolism and shit. It all means something. Not to mention they have fuck islands everywhere. So
Well, there was only one.
I'm sure there's just one.
And the space ring that we talked about, that you predicted also.
We're going to be eating bugs and so weak we can't fight back against the New World Order. I'm sure Joe Biden's son is going to sit pretty high in the New World Order. We talked
He
about
might be on a board somewhere.
how Trump was suing Hillary Clinton. Supreme Court asked about her gender. That's hilarious. Can you define gender? I'm not a biologist.
Not a biologist.
I've seen some wonderful things on the internet with firearms in that very statement.
To be fair, we've said that on this show. You specifically have been like, I'm not a scientist, bud, or I'm not a... But you still give it a shot.
Well, right, and she doesn't get paid. She doesn't get paid to make an opinion. Like it's a question. It's a question.
It's a factual, non-debatable question. What is a woman?
It's a question. Women give birth. I don't know what's so hard about that. Oh, I know why. Because they gotta confuse us with the gender roles. Because that's how you destroy. On that episode too, I talk about how they gotta destroy the nuclear family. Because it's the cradle of civilization.
Even Google, who's pretty far left, defines a woman. It's an adult female human being. That's it. It's very simple.
They're not biologists. We should fact check them.
Yeah, Google's not biologist. The hell, Google.
Speaking of Supreme Court, the Supreme Court blocked a lower court ruling on the Navy SEALs and COVID vaccines. There was a lot of people fighting against it. There was a lower court, I believe this was in Texas or something, and they said, yeah, they're fine. They don't need their vaccine. And then somebody above them said, you got to get your vaccine.
Well, until you hit the Supreme Court, there's always someone above them.
Well, I'm sure it's just because, health is now a right-leaning thing, and we don't want those terrorists in our military. Biden goes to Poland. So if you're wondering why he's in Poland, it's for the aid in Ukraine.
Well, Poland is in Europe, unlike Ukraine.
Yeah, apparently they're both Eastern Europe, which, fuck them. It's amazing what becomes Europe after 2 world wars. That's all I'm going to say.
Poland is literally in Europe. Like
Yeah.
it's also in the EU, which Ukraine isn't, which is weird considering Ukraine is allegedly in Europe. It's kind of weird.
What's the EU mean again, David?
I think the E stands for European.
And what's the U stand for?
Listen, Ukraine is in fucking Asia. I don't care what people have to say about it. We're referring to it as European because we want people to be sympathetic.
It's just Eastern Europe.
Listen, I feel bad what's happening in Ukraine, especially innocent people in Ukraine. Right? But let's not change the world around. I know Kamala Harris isn't a geologist or whatever the fuck you would have to be.
Well, luckily for us, they are saying that the war in Ukraine and Russia is just at a standstill now. So that's always a plus. Hasn't it been a standstill for 100 years?
It only took all of NATO to stand still Russia and Ukraine, so that's impressive.
Yeah, I'm really for all those people that want to say Russia's weak, it took literally the United Nations,
which includes us.
It wasn't Ukraine. That's why Biden's in fucking Poland giving weapons and support with refugees. Sure, there's nobody else in there. I'm sure there's no oil or pipeline gas deals that got to be cut in the middle of a war. Yeah, we're just making energy illegal everywhere else. Hillary Clinton caught COVID. Not only do I hope that she drops dead, but I don't believe that she actually caught COVID because she's a lion, you know.
Well, she got it, and Jen Psaki got it for like the 75th time, and somebody else got it. Psaki's husband, I think, got it.
I thought they're all vaccinated, and the vaccine.
Yeah, they're vaccinated and boosted. But that's why it's so important, Ryan, because look at how well they're doing despite getting COVID.
Maybe we need to take out like a $10 million loan again from China and give everybody a 4th vaccine dose of the COVID vaccine.
No, I think what we need to do with it is just hand out more stimulus to fight all that inflation.
Dude, what's crazy?
Handing out stimulus.
Could you imagine if you had to get 4 flu shots a year?
Would anybody do it? Let's ask this question.
Dude, you get your hepatitis shots like every 7 years. People get more COVID vaccines than we're getting hepatitis vaccines. There's only 3 hepatitis shots. I got to get 7 vaccines to go to work? I'm sure those inflated numbers, had nothing to do with this.
Yeah, but you got to remember these viruses now. They change so much.
Yeah, there's a milk strand. So, speaking of viruses, a small lab got $187 million for COVID testing. And they shut it down because it put patients in jeopardy.
Oh, how would it do that?
I don't know.
Was it next to a meat market?
It was a small operation with like very few people, like 10 people.
It must have been next to some raccoon dogs and a meat market. Foxes.
Look, I don't really dig into this story. I'm just highlighting that the government is just shitting out money for this stuff. They're literally just shitting money out for
it costs a lot to.
And then we're hearing about how it's putting people in patients, but I'm sure they only care about the 187 million. How much money have we given the Wuhan lab over in Asia to research the very same thing, but we know nothing about over there?
Well, it's a good thing we did, Ryan, because this virus just happened to come into the world.
We know all about this small lab, though, but we don't know anything about this one that's funded by the INHHWXYZ parties. I can't wait till everything's a flag with one fucking symbol on it. The EU is united against Russia. I wonder why. I don't know. Honestly, I wrote that down. I didn't expect to read that. I already talked about how the White House has exhausted all of its funds to not get Americans the 4th booster shot.
It's funds?
It's funds.
It doesn't have any funds. Where's the funds?
We've exhausted all our resources. So are you saying we're broke? No, we got to pass more money to Ukraine.
What they're saying is they spent all of our money, and they don't have any left.
Yeah, we've exhausted our funds. You stole billion. Elon Musk paid the largest tax bill in history.
No, he barely paid anything. It just depends who you ask.
Decembertainment this week.
We're going to need a good one. We got to really wind down here.
There's no winding down. Other than it's sentimental, and then it's also, I can tie it back into everything we talk about here. But so my mom is cleaning out her attic, and naturally, there's a bunch of my childhood shit up there. Mm-hmm. And she had this cool idea, and I encourage everybody to do this with children, that she made a time capsule. She basically, as she was going through her attic, she put all of my childhood stuff. My mom's not a hoarder, but she held on to all of our stuff. And she put it in this time capsule. It's just basically like a big tote, right? And then I come home and I sift through it. It had like old toys and my schoolwork and like just various, everything through your childhood, right? Like my school clothes, right? With like your, like the shit you're not going to wear that say like the Pew High School. I'm not going to wear that as an adult, right? But you're not going to throw it out, right? Like it's party, right? This value we add to things. And it was real sentimental, right? When I initially went through it, I got real sentimental. It just brought me back a lot of the memories and like stuff through family and like ticket stubs or concerts, right? Just the various, like literally reliving my life. I moved out very young at 17, and it's basically everything from 0 to 17. So it was like literally like I actually pulled out child paperwork, like my kids in kindergarten, and my kindergarten paperwork was the same paperwork she's learning, which says a lot about our public education in 20 years. But And she goes to the same school as I do, so they've had the same books for 20 years, which is sad. But regardless of that, it was just cool, like in general, to like sort through my like my family mementos that I've acquired, right? These memories of Ryan, like these, it's like archives, right? Because especially now that I'm an adult, I'm really trying to focus on myself. You know, you guys know, I tell you, been going to the gym still and everything, hit that like 2 days a week hardcore, and just trying to be better. We do the podcast here, so I have a place to talk about stuff I'm passionate with. I appreciate all our supporters. You know, I appreciate Dave for his time as well, and you guys. But yeah, just like the whole evolving, right? Like it's cool to like grade yourself and go back and look at your stuff. And I found so much cool stuff, dude. But one of the coolest things I ever had as a kid was I was always good with science and art. Those have always been my greatest strengths, and history. You know, I enjoy history. I've always liked cool old stuff. Maybe not the dates and remembrance stuff. I've got a lot better with that as I've gotten older. But naturally, obviously, I follow politics as a hobby. So like, there's got to be some tie there. But I've always liked, like I've talked about, like Braveheart and Troy and all these old awesome movies and that ancient Greece and all. I've always liked that stuff in science and art. I've always been really good at that. And I had a microscope when I was a kid with like the light and everything else. And I haven't found the microscope yet, it's still at my mom's, but I found like slides. This is a young mouse, which is also funny because they'd probably call it a mouse embryo now, even though it's literally a mouse. I know you can't probably see because
does it say it does young mouse?
Yeah, and it's like
That's funny.
A mouse. You can see all its organs and everything. Its stomach, its brain. It's all right there, right?
It's really young. It's almost like it's
a clump of cells. So I have 12 of them, right? And there's just various stuff. This is like corn, right? Like it's just like a single speck, a molecule of corn.
Oh, that's me.
Oh, bro, this is missing the K. But you know, this is
a lot of people don't understand that joke.
Ovary of a pig. You know, it's just like various stuff like this, right? And obviously,
ovary. Did that come out of what kind of pig did that come out of?
I'm sure like pigs aren't even real. Blood smear. So I thought I would have like some anthrax in here or something that I could like break onto the world. But
I think they have anthrax.
This is a housefly. You know, so this is what I want to see at COVID, damn it. Show me the glass side of the fucking strand of the virus that you're just magically saying that's wreaking havoc on populations all across the continent while you're simultaneously talking about leading the free world to a new world order that magically isn't a conspiracy anymore. Show me on the glass slide. I don't want to see a computer rendition of the inside of a mouse when I fucking got one on a little glass piece of plate. I'm a nobody. Literally a nobody. And I have a little dumb mouse here. Get me COVID. I want to see it on the plate. I don't believe your lies. I don't believe Hillary Clinton. I don't believe Jen Psaki. These people are getting free health care and fucking vacation time to fly all over the world without masks on and lecture me. Show me the shit. Swab your mouth if you're cancer. That should be the COVID test. This is the test right here. This should be a COVID test on the plate. And we could zoom in with a fucking 10 billion times magnification. Consider I can read a newspaper from space. Show me the damn virus in your saliva before we just bankrupt businesses and tell me that we're not marching towards New World Order at an economic level. But it's fine. Gas is only $7 a gallon. Wonder why poverty is at all-time highs, and depression and suicides and drug abuse. I'm sure none of those things are just like unilaterally put together. You know, it's just all coincidence. All these things happened. All these once-in-a-lifetime opportunities all happened in the same year time span. You know, an election cycle and a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic and World War III potentially starting. It's just all coincidence when a guy who's so old and frail that can't even talk is telling me about a new world order. I plan on seeing Batman soon, so I'll have that for Decembertainment. Until then, Dave Ryan, December 1773. Thank you guys for making it to the end. I appreciate that the most. Appreciate Dave for your time as always. If you like the video, share the video. Follow us on Rumble, most importantly, Facebook, YouTube. See you guys at the premiere Mondays, 7 Eastern. Yeah, you guys be well. Thank you for everything as always, and I'll catch you next time.
Thank you. Look for more in the future. New looks. Potential producer, maybe. We'll see.
So will we have trip cameras then? It'd be a 3-way camera.
Yeah, we can do that.
Like, or they'd be in your frame too. I'm excited.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, brother. Be well. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.